So I saw the last episode of Game of Thrones and I found some things to rant about. Now, first of all, this video is going to contain major spoilers about Season 6, Episode 8, so if you haven't watched up until then, don't watch. And also, if you think that Game of Thrones doesn't need any realism because it's fantasy, then don't watch either because this video is not for you. Greetings everyone, I am SnapJelly, and not in the last episode, but the episode before that, episode 7 I think, you saw the Hound go into battle to revenge his fallen friends against some men of the Brotherhood without banners, and to do so, he grabbed an axe. Not a battle axe, no, a wood-splitting axe. Now, it's kind of a cool scenario, isn't it? Like the woodsman versus the swordsman, who would win? Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but probably the swordsman. Like, if the swordsman has an IQ that reaches over potato and is not mentally challenged, then yeah, it's gonna be the swordsman. Really. You see, even though axes and swords aren't necessarily that different in weight, it's more of where the weight is on the weapon. You see, a sword has most of the weight towards the handle, making them really quick and nimble, while an axe has all of the weight, literally almost all of the weight, on the end of the stick. That makes it really, really bulky to use, but you can't use it, honestly. It's just impossible. Well, a battle axe is really, really, really small. They're like the tiniest things. Or, like, for example, the Dane axe. The Dane axe is big, but those are really, really thin. Really thin. Otherwise, you just can't use it. An axe like this would just be too slow. The faster way you could use it is by having it all the way up there and just go like this. Like, if your enemy would thrust against you, you could kind of go like this, and then the thrust would go beside you, and that's how you would block. But then on the other hand, the guy with the sword could just go like that, uncontrollably stab in all directions, and then you would die. You can't block against that. You would be so hurt, it just won't work. You can't. And what bothers me the most is, why does he carry the axe? Where's the sword? Like, when he fell, he had his armor on, he had his sword with him, right? Like, it kind of makes sense that his armor isn't there. Like, maybe the guy, what's his name, took it off because it's too heavy. Well, not that heavy, it would be like 30 kilos, but let's say it's too heavy. But the sword doesn't weigh shit. Like, really, it weighs like 2-3 kilos at most. Can't you carry that? It would be a waste. Is it just laying somewhere? His sword should be somewhere. But whatever. He grabs his axe and he goes towards the swordsman and takes revenge. Now, while we're at it, let's see what happens and do a little fight review.
Got off on that, did you? You're fuck.
So this first guy's head is chopped off, which is very possible. I mean, with one swing, yeah, it could happen. But on the other hand, it probably won't be this clean, because, you know, a wood-splitting axe doesn't necessarily have to be sharp. It relies more on the force of impact and the edge and the proper edge alignment to chop the wood. And even if your axe is sharp and new, if you're just randomly whacking against a piece of wood, then you're not going to split it. You need to do it the right way. So it's probably going to be a lot more messy. In fact, if that axe would hit his neck, then it would just go this way and just explode all over everything. It would be really disgusting. Alright, now this bothers me, because in the same episode you see Sandor Clegane in his armor fighting against some Faith Milita, and this Faith Milita with his, whatever it is, spiked stick, rams his weapon in the middle of his chest plate, and it penetrates so deeply. It penetrates insanely deeply that either this guy's a superhero, that's a super weapon, or that armor is shit because it would never penetrate this deeply. Like, really, if you would just grab that weapon and ram it into somebody's helmet, it would just go straight through his skull, and he would die instantly. I mean, even a strike like this would probably kill somebody instantly if it wasn't a zombie, right? So now you have a character that actually has a heavy weapon, and all weapons are insanely exaggerated in terms of weight in Game of Thrones. Like, swords are used like that, while they're actually really quick and nimble weapons. But now you have somebody with a heavy weapon, and supposedly really strong character, like the Hound is really physically in shape, right? And he rams that thing into somebody's chest, and he's just standing there, like, oh, look at that. It seems like all of my ribs are being broken. Well, there you go, mate, your axe back. Come on, like, just the sheer force would throw that guy off his feet. The axe will probably get stuck in his chest, Well, that's more of a thing that the screenwriters decide if the axe gets stuck or not, but still, you know, he's not just gonna stand there. Come on, you know better than this. And then the guys decide to take up arms. And that's literally all they do. They pick up their arms, their swords. And that's it, they don't do anything. The first guy gets immediately killed. Now, I can't see what really happened there, because his throat is cut. Like I said, the axe is probably not sharp because he used it a lot, right? So it's gonna lose a lot of his sharpness. Well, maybe he cut his throat with his own blade, kinda? That happened, maybe? It's weird. But what I think happened is the sword wasn't strong enough to block the axe, and the axe kinda hooking around the sword cut his throat. Now, even if the axe was sharp, it's also this thick. It's not gonna make a clean cut. It would be a huge gap that would be open right here. Or more likely just gash into his neck right there and just leave a wedge, like, it would still kill him. But you know, it's not gonna be a clean cut, no way. And it is a clean cut, and he's just standing there with his sword, not using it, just like, oh, I'm ready to die now, I think. Yeah, and dead. Alright. And then this guy happens, same thing. He stands there with his sword, and then axe all the way up his crotch, and then he's like, oh no! Now I look like Varys, even more than I already did. That's... Why? Why doesn't he do anything? Like, you're fighting, right? Your adrenaline, they also look like they were scared, so that's the thing. And then you get that thing up your crotch, you're not gonna feel the pain immediately. It's gonna take a while. Like, what would happen is you get that thing right down there, you stab in his throat, and then you'd be like, oh, I've been hurt, yeah, well, I'm bleeding to death now. Dang it, but he would be dead as well. Right? You're not just gonna stand there and be like, oh no, I've been hurt, what do I do now? Drop to my knees. No. No, just no. And what's even more stupid is after he drops on his knees, he's still holding his sword. But not using it. Like, look at it, it's right there. He has his sword in his hand, but he doesn't do anything. Like, you've just had your dick chopped off, and you don't want to kill the guy who did it? Varys did. So, why wouldn't you? That's weird, isn't it? And even more so, the Hound is a skilled warrior, right? He should know that after he has subdued his enemy, he shouldn't allow him to keep his sword. Like, he should take it away or something, or take it. Like, that would have been a proper thing to do, right? Because this guy, this second guy, he should have already run to action as soon as the mountain killed the last guy. He should have just sprinted towards him and stabbed him right in the face. While the Hound, he could have grabbed the sword of the last guy he killed. Because he's a swordsman, right? He always carried a sword, not an axe, so he's probably more skilled with a sword than an axe. Why didn't he grab the sword? I mean, he did steal the boots of the guy later, so he has no problem with grabbing things of dead people. It shouldn't matter. I mean, you're a swordsman, you need a sword, but after he kills these guys, he goes off to the next one, still with the axe. Well, there are two swords right here. It doesn't take any more time. It takes one squat to get one. So, why? It's just dumb. He has nothing, just the axe. No armor, no knife, nothing. Not even shoes. Why? I don't get it. It's stupid. You should know better, screenwriters of Game of Thrones. Seriously. Even though I still enjoyed the episode. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you did, and like, and favorite, and share, and all of that good stuff. And, well, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining my quest. I didn't say that. I didn't say join me in my quest this time. Well, I screwed up. It doesn't matter. Bye, guys.